I made it to work the following day, but the voices were loud. The night before was the only time they had ever let me rest for a few hours. There was hope. This was far from being over, though. I had called and spoken to someone at the Catholic Church and was told that the church could not perform a full exorcism without permission from the bishop, which would take up to 6 months. I was to attend Mass every Sunday, go to confession, and receive Holy Communion. I also needed to have mental illness ruled out before the bishop would decide. I disagreed with having mental illness ruled out because I felt it was a spiritual problem, but I attended a few Masses, went to confession, and received communion. Sometimes I would hear a voice praying next to me in church, as I did at home. I was doing terribly physically. I was shaking a lot and frequently cold. I could feel energy moving in and out of me that would chill my bones. I was exhausted. I didn't hardly eat or drink. I forgot about it. I'd hear the voices all day at work and began talking back to them. I couldn't work well because of the voices and severe anxiety. Sometimes it would take over 10 minutes to only place an envelope in the printer. My hands would shake and I felt uncomfortable in my skin. I once heard a voice instruct me to tell my non-messianic Jewish boss that Jesus Christ did exist. My boss already knew my beliefs and I knew his. I did not follow the voice's instructions. I understand that Satan trying to make me start trouble with my boss. It would have looked bad because I was not right in my mind. I bet the enemy does that a lot to try to make people who claim to be Christian look bad. On a work break, I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I heard a voice tell me to jump off the balcony. I realized I had to get to the church that performed exorcisms as soon as possible. I left a message asking the priest if he could visit with me after I got off work. At the end of the workday, I drove to a parking lot and waited for the priest to call me back. I could barely drive. The voices told me I'd better not see the priest and go to that church. They said they were going to keep me from getting there. The priest finally called to let me know he would meet with me. The voices were so loud and distracting that it took me an hour to figure out that I had been driving around in circles. I kept recognizing the same streets that I had already passed. The enemy likes to keep people in a wilderness of lies and deception, preventing a person in bondage from walking outside the circle of madness. Your thoughts go in circles like a mad dog chasing its tail. I prayed for God to please help me find the church. Eventually, I found the priest I had talked to over the phone. He took me into a little room. I told him everything that was happening to me. The priest said I had opened a door and invited demons in by meditating under severe distress and without God's protection. I agreed and still felt that the mental illness was a spiritual problem, like the priest said. Demons I had invited in, he said that he could perform a minor exorcism. The priest took me into a chapel, anointed my forehead with oil, and held a crucifix against it. He then began praying. Throughout this ordeal, I only heard one voice saying that if I did not stop the priest, the entity would snap my neck. This was constantly repeated. I felt like I was in a trance. The priest had done all he could, but nothing changed. He gave me a book. I had never read it because the dog I had at home tore it up. He said it was about a woman who went through the same thing and pulled through. He told me that sometimes these things happen to Christians because God has a special plan for their lives and wants them to serve his purpose. It almost seemed like the priest was telling me this was some test. The priest also handed me a Bible and blessed a crucifix for me to take home. Additionally, he handed me some papers containing prayers to say every night to fight curses, witchcraft, and demons. He told me to say my rosary every night and to mention Mary's name. He said that demons hate it when you mention Mary. I had a rosary already, so I thanked him for his time and went home. At some point, I also obtained holy water from a Catholic store. I thought I had some ammunition, but things got worse.